Good morning. Welcome back to the final stream of the week, Friday. It's a little chilly in the office, so rocking the sweatshirt. The Don't Do Dumb Shit mug. It's been treating us well this week. Let's not screw it up this Friday. We're just going to go over quick. Market opens here in 4 minutes. Kind of what I see, what's going on as far as everything is concerned. We don't have news or data. The data we have this week has come and gone. Really, yesterday we had the tariff announcement for UK and US, which kind of drove us up pretty much most of the day. Then we consolidated up at this resistance and then sold off towards the end of the day. This morning, Trump tweeted something about 80% tariffs on, let me see if I can find it, on China. And then today, we will see every Fed speaker wanting to get their word out there, which they're all going to say sort of the same thing the whole day. Market is uncertain with tariffs, all that, all yada, yada, yada. None of them are really, I think a few of them are voting members, so that's going to be sort of interesting, but I don't think that they're going to really have any impact on any sort of movement. I think if you do start to see movement, it's going to be a tweet. It's going to be something along those lines. So just pull up Financial Juice or just watch the stream for a little bit. As I see things pop up on the newswire, I will just kind of talk about them and say, hey, okay, this is why X, Y, and Z happened. NASDAQ is sitting up slightly, 0.44%. S&P's is up 0.32%. Oil's up 1%. NVIDIA's up pre-market about 0.25%. Apple's up a little bit. And Microsoft is up 1%. But I'm going to go over to, actually, first off, this anchored VWAP from the week, right? We're still above it. We held it as support yesterday in the NQ, never quite touched it. S&Ps have kind of came back and retouched it a few times. Last night, I actually would set an alert right there for it to touch off on this anchored VWAP, because if it did, I wanted to try and see if I can catch something long on the overnight session, and it never quite got through it or used it, so I just left it alone. But you can see it acted as support there also. Could we come back and retest that today? Absolutely. We are sort of range bound. We have that overhead resistance. Still some uncertainty with the trade talks aside from UK, right? The UK talks yesterday went pretty well, I think, especially for companies like Boeing. We saw Boeing pump on it. We'll go over to NVIDIA. NVIDIA, you saw the gap up. We had pre-market yesterday, gave all of that gap back, and then came back and sat in this range the rest of the session once that press conference was done. And then now we have sold off after hours and then right back into that range again, right? So we have 1 minute till open. Do we reclaim this area, get back into that consolidation, or do we come back, retest 116.63 and see if we can get a bounce? Same with Microsoft. You got Microsoft here showing that strength yesterday, consolidated, sold off towards the end of the day, and now we've just been sitting at that low. One places that we're interested in over here, and then at 437, if we can get down to 437 as support, I will look to long the NQs. We're going to go over here, get into our levels, right? Overnight high is just above, previous day high right there. I'm going to wait to see if I can get up over that to see if I can fade it. Fridays tend to trend, so I like to be slightly hands off on a Friday, but we'll see what happens.
Seconds.
All right, we got 10 seconds to open. We're going to open sort of away from our areas, which is good for me. And I'm going to just be patient, kind of talk through.
61 minute, NASDAQ 100, sell side 35 minute.
Okay, the opening imbalances is a negative, obviously sell side, but you can see market doesn't really care. It's still pairing off to the upside. We're not waiting for just like a touch of this overnight high. We want to see people try and get involved. I talked through it the other day or every day this week that I streamed. We're talking about wanting to see people get off sides, right? That's my strategy. I want to fade majority. I want to fade people who think that they're going to get involved in a direction, and then I like to rotate it back the other way. So, right, like if this continues to be strong and breaks this wick high from that tariff announcement this morning, the overnight high, it's an area where a lot of sellers got involved. Realistically, right where we're at right now is an interesting area for sellers to step in. However, I like to keep my levels very simple. I use the same ones every single day. If we can get people thinking that this is just going to continue long the whole day, get a nice strong candle, maybe up into that 20,300, and then they're going to start setting stops here. If they start to rotate back down, that's when they start to panic out, and that's when you start to get a flush on this end or a short squeeze on the other end. So I'll see what I can do across the accounts. Maybe we can be done before 9 o'clock. Yeah, NVIDIA is selling from that level, so not accepting into the range from yesterday. So we could possibly see it down to 117. I remember yesterday, if you were here at all, 117 to 116 was a consolidation zone as well. So if it accepts back into there, we could hold lows for a little while. Microsoft also selling through 439.31, could push down to that 437 area where there will be a lot of buying interest down there. Pre-market low is 437.85 for Microsoft. As of right now, we have gone nowhere. A little bit up, a little bit of down, a little bit of sideways. Like I said, this is an area where there was that strong news candle manipulation and sell side pressure right into the session VWAP, which is that yellow line, volume average weighted price. So that's a lot of times an area of support, especially pre-market. You're not getting the algorithm too much. This probably was an algo pump. Just knowing that it was a Trump tweet. So as soon as they see anything where it's maybe not a Trump tweet, but something, announcement from the White House, that's usually when it is. But I think it was an actual Trump post. I have to find it in the old log here. Okay. It was like 6:30 this morning. 7:30 Eastern time. He mentioned after the fact, was that yesterday? No, it was last night. China tariffs can't get any higher than 145%. But this morning, I think they turned it and said, not they turned it, but they said 80% sounds good. Talked about, wouldn't be surprised if there was a deal with China yesterday. No, I don't have anything on it. It's all good. So nothing coming over the news at the moment. Like I said, I always, especially now, headline-driven markets, I'd like to keep up any sort of news feed. I have Twitter up on X on the other screen with all the major news outlets that I need for my trading information. Realistically, it's just a few people who are just on top of the ball of tweeting when news comes out.
Pakistan Air Force says more than 100 planes of Pakistan and India took part in one-hour air battle on Wednesday.
Alrighty. Just hanging tight here. See if we can get that S&Ps up into that overnight high or even into that 57.20 area. Try and sell that. As I showed you yesterday, you don't need a ton of points to have an okay day, right? I think I caught maybe 20 points. And I just shut it down after that. Even though I had an A-plus setup come into play for the second entry, the press conference kind of knocked that down a few letters. So I turned it from an A-plus into like a B, and I didn't take it, which ended up working out really, really well. It would have been a perfect setup. But with the headline uncertainty, and he could have said one word wrong, and I would have been wicked in, wicked out, and been done. So having been up even just a small amount early, I didn't want to mess around with that information. So I will be watching NVIDIA. I will be watching Microsoft. The S&Ps, of course, you can see on the screen at the moment, just so we can get a full picture of what I want to do. If I can get up over the overnight high, I want to see the S&Ps also get close or over it. That'll help my timing with the short idea. The idea that previous day highs couldn't come in is not out of the realm of possibility as well. All these Fed speakers are going to just talk back and forth a bunch of nonsense. I don't think that they're going to really trigger any of the algos unless it's somebody of significance, maybe Waller, maybe, I doubt it. I don't think any of these guys are going to really drive markets in any direction. So we're going to really be mindful of the China tariff talks. They're supposed to be meeting tomorrow or talking or having whatever conversations they're supposed to be having. So we'll see. We're starting to push up towards that overnight high, which is this consolidation zone, right? 277, I believe, was the high of last week. So I will be cautious around the 277 level. I'll even draw a line there just to keep myself mindful of it. 277 quarters. I want to say that that was the high from last week. Yeah, right there. I have an okay memory sometimes. So that's an area that will be watched very closely for participants. Do they want to be higher than they were last week? Do they want to close above that? This is the end of the week. Do we want to finish this week stronger than we did last week? Do we want to accept pricing above this level? So does that make my idea invalid, or does it at least get people involved in trying to short this and get it pushing down for a temporary short period of time? And that's all I need. I only need, like I said, 20 points, and then I'll take everything after that. Should we get up over overnight highs? Like I said, I need to see S&Ps kind of play along, push up as well. I'm not sure what the S&P's previous week high was. It's a bit higher. It's right there. So it's over that level. So S&Ps does have a little bit more room to the upside to go, should it want to. I need this level 2 there. Okay. NVIDIA is trying to accept back over that level, selling a little bit here at the moment. You know, came into some resistance, pre-market resistance, so could just come back into that 117.71. Microsoft has just been straight sideways. So you see Microsoft stuck in that little range there. Should it want to push up and hold, that's when we may have an issue with this. But if we start to sell from this level, then we could possibly start to get our idea to really play out nicely. See NVIDIA in that range from the pre-market session. Should it push up into that level, I'm going to be pausing on my short idea on the NQ. But that will kind of help the S&Ps up a bit and catch up. So if I can get the S&Ps to catch up, then we'll be all right. All right, so we're into that previous week high. Now that's an area of interest. NVIDIA is squeezing up a bit. Microsoft's holding the bid. S&Ps is not as strong. So we got the relative weakness in the S&Ps today, right? The S&Ps have been leading me, right? I've been talking about that all week as well. S&Ps have been leading. Is relative weakness right now. I never made it through the overnight high. I really want to get through that, trap some of these longs, and then that should help the S&Ps get to that overnight high and then allow me to anticipate and short on the idea there, right? We'll see that on here, right? 720 is really where I want to see the S&Ps. Maybe, I mean, if it's a little lower, right? Just the overnight high is still fine. It's just, this is 30 minutes, right? These are all 30-minute candles. It's still an upside pressure. You know, there is a chance that it sells from here right away, but I'm not looking to short the previous week high. I'm looking to short the overnight high and then use the previous week high as a confluence to help push me back down if we could fail that overnight high, trap some longs, and then get going. If it's just a touch, like I said, also, if it's just a touch and go, I can't short that. It's a great short, right? It moved already 77.57. There's already 20 points. You know, pushing on 30 points already. I just don't have that as an entry currently, you know, with the way NVIDIA is pushing through highs. Microsoft was pushing and trying to hold. It's selling now, and then S&Ps has been relatively weak. So we're going to watch the S&Ps help us short side. I got to keep making sure. If you see me zoom out like this all the time, it's just me making sure that the VWAP is correct, because the Project X VWAP doesn't always populate correctly. I'm going to add this on here. Hold on. 8:30, because yes, it helped me a little bit yesterday for an idea.
So just a reminder of Trump's schedule. It's pretty light.
8:30 to
signing executive orders at 4 p.m. Eastern time.
That's fine. Point of control is way up there, right? So
She's due to deliver
do we go point of control, failure?
1 p.m. Eastern time.
then rotate back down. Looks like we already tried to, right? Because point of control is between the two levels there. Microsoft's getting heavier, but NVIDIA is holding support at 117.71. Nothing for me yet. This is how I keep my patience. Seeing moves like that, great, but it's not appropriate timing. It's not good for me. It's not a failed breakout. It's not trapping longs. It's not putting me on the right side of things should we fail a specific level, right? I really, this was the previous day overnight high right there. So it is a useful level as well. But again, it's not something that I'm going to be using right now. I'm just going to have it as an added layer, of confidence. But, right, let's just put that there just to show you that's where it was, right? So now those are areas where should we run up and then get through our overnight high level, get me entered and all that. These are areas, 1, 2, and then down lower where I should probably run into some congestion. Probably get to eventually trail through, right? Once I start getting my move in my direction, then this is where I would expect either price to give up or not. So you can see it's already being reactive there, already being reactive there. This is the previous week high, and this is overnight high from not last night, but the night before. So these are areas that I just kind of keep an eyeball on. As I mentioned, S&P has been leading me this week. It's showing relative weakness. Never quite made it to the overnight high. We never made it to the overnight high here, but we did make it to previous week high. We never did get close to that because that's up here in the S&Ps as well. So it has been the leader as far as my moves are concerned. I was allowing it to kind of catch up the NQ first to allow my timing to be better, and it's worked out all week pretty well. So now if it's going to lead us to the downside, showing the relative weakness, I would like to see it push up and get to that overnight high, and then when it starts to fail, then I can get my failure in. Or if it breaks out, then I don't have a trade, right? So that's the way I keep myself out. Could I start to use the breakout strategy? If I start to see it working more and more and more, then I can, say, okay, my mean reversion strategy is not working. The breakout's now active. I can possibly start to look for longs as I hold above that overnight high or above that previous day high. But I realistically don't trail those well. I don't play those well. And by the time I already know it's a confirmed breakout, I don't like to play it because my risk to reward is not there. So I'd really have to find a new type of entry over those levels just because I know, all right, it's accepting into new areas, new territory, or a previous area of consolidation where it's accepting into that area where price likes to be. And then I can start to mess with it and say, okay, as long as we hold overnight highs, then the long play makes sense or whatever. And it wouldn't be a true breakout. It would be more of a pullback strategy or looking for key level structures to be buying and selling off of. But it's usually why I get myself into trouble at all-time high levels because I don't have blue sky breakout ideas. And, I last time we reached the all-time highs, I kind of just held off and didn't trade as much. And it helped because in the past, I try to short it. I'm that kind of person where, okay, we're through all-time highs. I'm going to short it, and then it just burns through. Or then I'll try and take longs, and it'll fade. So I just have a hard time when there's not a lot of information. So I usually let those all-time high levels settle in. Should we get there anytime this year, I'm going to try and make some sort of adjustments and look to see what kind of breakouts we could play. And if we do have the same ideas with the overnight highs and lows and stuff like that, we can make it work. Nothing on the newswire. Kremlin says Russia, U.S. discuss gas supply to Europe. There was a hour-long 100-plane battle in Pakistan and India. Those guys are having fun over there, I guess. Williams is done talking as of 18 minutes ago, so that's another reason why potentially Markets may settle in. Patience, patience, patience. Allowing these moves to set up for me is really the key. I'm really not looking to force anything in currently, especially, like I said, Fridays. I'm up on the week pretty decent, across all the accounts. Let's call it, couple K and leave it at that. We are just waiting. That's the hard part. Like with a trading stream and stuff and whatnot, everybody has different strategies. Everybody has different ideas with the market. Everybody has a way to kind of interpret data. My thought on a stream is not like, hey, I'm going to show you how much money I can make on a day or how this strategy works or that strategy works. I want to just kind of talk you through what my mindset is, what I'm thinking about, how I anticipate what I'm looking to trade, and how I can talk myself in or out of an idea that potentially could or could not work. But at the same time, it's not talking myself into something that's not good, right? It's talking you through why X, Y, and Z may occur, and then how you can kind of set yourself up on a trade where you can limit your risk, try and keep you up to date on data, right? Understanding what's coming out, what's not coming out, what to be looking out for, how to kind of keep it in your sights, but without watching it religiously or whatever. I keep up. So should you not be wanting to keep watching me or whatever, and if I'm not on, or if you just want to do things all by yourself, a good habit that I've created is I keep up Financial Juice. I keep it with the voice chat on. The free version is fine. I don't find any delays in it. I think maybe the only thing is it's got ads here and there. And like I said, I may pay for it eventually just because I do enjoy their service, support the service, keep it going, and also at the same time get rid of some of the ads and maybe get a little bit more benefit from it. I also follow them on X. I have this X Pro. I pay $8 a month for X to be verified and then also get access to some of the better features. This used to be TweetDeck. Now it's X Pro, but this is where I keep all of the data that I want to see up. I keep that on the other screen. Still not anything for me, right? I haven't got to my levels. We're sitting around VWAP, pretty much sitting in that opening range right there, opening range. So we're in the middle of it. So I keep up Financial Juice. I keep up X Pro, and then I also keep up Trader TV Live. Trader TV Live is a streaming group of guys who are based out of Canada. They trade equities on a prop desk. So they're calling out their plays. They're talking market information. If there's some data that maybe Financial Juice might miss or they might get something ahead of time, I like to hear them talk about certain moves that they're playing. Say they're trading Microsoft or Apple, or they're talking about big cap names. I just like to have something that I'm not exactly trading in the background, just to have market information up there. I don't need to have, MSNBC up or any of those things. It's fine if you have it, on a TV muted, but they're just going to be talking about nonsense to keep viewers on screen, right? So they're just more of an entertainment service at the end of the day. Yeah, they're okay, but I'm getting faster news from other information, and then also, like I said, the tweets. We're in a headline-driven market. Headline-driven markets. Headline-driven markets are going to be tweets, news, any sort of information that you can possibly get first. Then maybe you can capitalize on it. This, when you're trading, you're going to be getting. This is starting to speed up a little bit. Sorry. When you're trading, you're going to see these moves happen because the algos are going to be much faster than you, right? So you want to know the reason why, the algo did this. Why did it spike, rip you up, rip your face off, and then start to melt off? Oh, well, because Trump tweeted about China tariffs, right? At least you have an understanding of what it's about, and then you can make an idea or an educated decision once we let that settle in and keep going. Or do you think that news is significant enough to where that now, okay, we can enter it down here and be safe still, because that's just going to, we manipulated into a supply zone and now we're melting off, right? So really just keeping yourself informed, allowing yourself to know what's going on at all times. If you trade oil, maybe throw up oilprice.com, having some sort of news feed for, oil supplies, even Twitter, right? Or X, whatever, having it up. There could be a bombing in an OPEC country that maybe doesn't allow, that it shoots prices up or whatever, right? So just understanding what drives your market, what you're trading, what your instruments are, and then move forward from there. I don't know if my stream is frozen or not. It looks okay. All right. Still no executions today. Same as yesterday. Pretty sideways. Yesterday we were anticipating a Trump press conference. Today we're not anticipating anything. So the fact that I feel like we're in an environment now, right? We were super high volatility. VIX was through the roof, right? Right now VIX is at 22 and falling. So we're at a much lower volatility environment. Although a 20 isn't like considered super, super low. It's middle of the range. But you can see how wild we were in the VIX at 60 early in April. So, the volatility index has been falling. We're in that time where there's going to be more muted moves. However, when there is a move, it's going to be quick, fast. You got to be able to get on the right side of it. And then also allow yourself to have the strategies that you can play where you're going to take advantage of some of these slower, more controlled moves that are normal pretty much for these markets. And realistically, our short was perfect here. It just never got to the levels. And then also the S&Ps just never quite got there. So that really helped this downside. Also, Microsoft sold. It rejected that 439. So there's Microsoft there. I think, we could possibly see down to 437, although we are at the pre-market support currently. And then NVIDIA also at pre-market support. Do I think we can get all the way back down into there? I don't know. I think maybe 117. Right? Like I said, 116 to 117 was that area of, hey, that consolidation zone from here, right? We've been holding over it since that chip news. Realistically, I do feel like we could start to catch a bid here and rotate back higher. I don't see much information for downside pressure today. Decent trade news with the UK deal. I think the China stuff will blow over. I think it's just a bunch of jawboning and rhetoric until they decide to work together and make a deal happen. And, it's just always going to be a constant battle. They have had deals in the past. They'll have deals again. At the end of the day, every country wants to make money. Every country wants to do what's good for them. Whether you like the tariffs or not, it doesn't really matter what you like. It doesn't really matter what the market's like. You just have to be able to know what information is going to move these markets, what headlines are going to push it, and then how to react or how not to react to, algo pumps or not. I like to watch the NQ Dome or the DOM or whatever you would like to call it. The level 2s is what I call it most of the time. I want to see the speed of how this is moving. If there's going to be thinness, if there's going to be, bids and asks just kind of dropping off here and there. The MNQ will show it, but you're not going to see, you're always going to see pretty decent size, right? 10s, 20s, 30s, even 100 lots isn't, super significant in the micros. But when you start to come into the full contract, right, you start to see larger size, 1510s, multiple orders sitting on the bid. There's a lot of interest at these areas, right? Prices either going to pull up into it or run away from it. You start to see 100 lots on the full mini contract, then you're going to start to get the price to move a bit more. Am I on the right chart? Yes, okay. VWAP acting as support, pretty good. Like I mentioned earlier, going to be or maybe not earlier at all, it's going to be a shorter stream today. Fridays, I tend to not want to hang around much longer than 10, 11 o'clock because that's when I start to get myself in trouble anyway. But The wife has some appointments. I have to take care of the babies. I got work tonight. There's a lot of factors. I'm already up for the week. Okay, pretty nice. Um, we're doing okay. So I'm not gonna be looking to give a lot back on a Friday with low data. The chance of just a lot of chop as of right now, it seems like that's the case. We do see this potentially looking like it wants to squeeze up. If I can get a nice hard move up over the overnight high, this type of pattern here for people who are pattern traders starting to get more like a wedge, right? Or a bull flag, or maybe whatever you want to call it. So maybe it's going to break out here, push up. If you get that strong push up, people might be looking to add up here. That's when you might get that failure rotation. Or if they trap them here and start to continue rotating them down, that's also a possibility. This is why I use these mugs. Remind myself, remind others, don't do dumb shit, right? I'll constantly say it. I think that's the motto of this stream. I got the shirt, I got the mug. If you want to buy one, go over to the website, use my code PolicingPips. Get yourself 15% off. It's my company, so I can give the discount codes I want. It's not an affiliate code or anything like that. It's just me, and we run this company ourselves. So come support us. Don't do dumb shit. It's really just been the motto of this stream since before, when other people, when we were really bumping and grinding and having a good time last year, kind of just became the motto. So we decided to make a mug out of it. A couple people got it. It's just a reminder, right? Like on days like today, or when you're sitting there by yourself and the mug is sitting there and you look at it, okay, don't do dumb shit, right? I don't want to enter into something here because I don't have a setup for myself. I'm away from my levels. I'm, X, Y, and Z. Why am I taking this trade? Talk yourself through it and don't do dumb shit, right? It could apply to a lot of things in life. So there's that bull flag breakout type idea. Nvidia's starting to hold over 117.71. My only problem with what's going to possibly occur if we do get over the overnight high, I would expect maybe even the previous day high would be more of an ideal location for a short. But, like I mentioned, I have to try and shoot my shot at the overnight levels. Should I see that behavior that makes me believe that we're going to get that failed breakout, I would need the S&Ps to play along. So most of the time, to help my timing, right, I want to get the S&Ps to do the same thing, get to the level, and then fail it, right? A lot of times, I'm trading S&P levels by executing on the NASDAQ more than I'm using NQ levels at times, right? There's times where I'm waiting for the S&Ps to use the, right here, we came onto that anchored VWAP for the week. We came here. This was the play that I was talking about. The all-time high anchored VWAP. I was waiting for this to come into play. We were going to come and touch it. We were nowhere near that in the NQ. All-time high anchored VWAP's up here. So how did I use that to my advantage? Well, I traded the S&P level and executed on the NQ when I got to a specific spot in the NQ as well. So I have that confluence there, right? So you don't necessarily always just need... You need to understand how their relationships are between the instruments that you're trading and looking at and adding to your kind of your playbook and your what you're doing. So that's what I do here, how I look for levels and all that fun stuff. Once again, running into that pre-market level from a few days ago. Okay, so 9 o'clock, nothing. Trump schedule, a lot of Trump schedule is after market hours. So we shouldn't get anything, for me when I'm on stream or anything like that. But we could get this overnight high idea to play out. It doesn't appear that it wants to be a breakout type day. So a rotational idea, my mean reversion strategy idea could play out nicely, or it could not. But realistically, I have to just watch these levels, see what happens around them, and see if I can get some confluence that'll help me out. My concern is if we do get over the overnight high, NVIDIA is sort of wedging out to a point where it wants to possibly break out. And I think NVIDIA is more strong than it's not. Microsoft, it's at a resistance level, so if it sells, it's fine, right? Microsoft led us yesterday. If we can get Microsoft to sell today, which it just hit that resistance and sold too soon, maybe we can get over the overnight high here. It may counteract the NVIDIA. And then we can get neutralized. We can catch our 20, 40, 30, 50 points and be done for this session and the week. I'll let you know if I'm entering, if I have anything going on. It would be nice to get S&Ps to start to catch up. Although, like I said, it's showing relative weakness because it never quite made it there. We need this to start messing around a little bit higher up. 20,300 is a nice little round number for it to want to get through. So if we do see price get up over 20,300, entry below overnight highs for the failure. First stop 77, second stop 62, then beyond. That would be my hope for that. Because from 90 to 77, 62. 30 some odd points there, right? These are stops along the way that I would like to see just kind of get burned through. If you start to see good momentum through these levels, if you are short, then that's where there would be good interest. So if I'm not running into that resistance, if the buyers are just giving up, then the longer term idea down to VWAP could make sense. The opening range high is still right here too. So that's another level that I have to keep in mind.
Just a heads up, China's Commerce Minister Wang met Russian economy minister.
NVIDIA is still looking like it wants to break out. The best thing that this strategy does for me at the end of the day is it allows me to keep patience and allows me to keep consistency day in and day out, right? Should the idea not work out or not completely set up, and I don't get a trade or I get stopped out for a loser or whatever, it's fine because if I set good risk management skills and all that, most of the time this strategy is going to work out. It is going to play out. There's going to be a lot of interest in these levels. You're going to get moves kind of quick and I'll be able to profit off of them majority of the time. And as long as I'm able to limit my losing days to not oversized days or oversized losses, then the winners take care of themselves and that profit curve moves up and to the right long term. Everybody always gets into trouble trying to push that profit curve too quickly or whatnot. Like I said, it's me too. I'm not eliminating myself. That's where I'm at. But if you can just stay patient, allow your lockout numbers, right? I have my personal daily lockout on this account. I'm buffer building hard on this TFD after passing the assessments, right? I'm not looking to rush it at all. I have no rush in this. I want to be with TFD for as long as I possibly can. I think that their business model and the model for traders is top notch, right? So you can expect me to take this really slow, take my base hits, lock out, move on, every day closer to building the buffer, to building payouts. And then as I start to build bigger and bigger equity, then I can start to leverage into size a bit more. You will see me maybe get some more size on, I trade minis on my top step with a little bit of a buffer, and I trade micros, 2 micros here in the TFD. So on the executions, you're going to see micros. If I move over, I'll show you the top step executions when it happens. Once again, we didn't quite make it to that high. However, right now you're pushing into that opening range, 1 minute opening range low. Should that support, that is sort of dangerous for my strategy because now we've held this level here multiple times. This is the opening range low right there. So if we hold it or we flush it and start to rotate out, that's a good reason for longs to kind of just continue to push this up and have momentum to the high side.
on tariff discussion.
The lack of
China's Commerce
participants
Statement
trying to
says
sell through the opening range low means that they do want to keep buying. They want to keep this propped up, so the long idea makes a lot of sense.
exchange of bilateral cooperation
This
will
is
respond
that
to
same
those
level
tariffs.
right there. Apparently Tesla's rocking and rolling. Tesla. Oh yeah, wow. Here's your Tesla move. 305.57. I have some TSLL. All right, back in the money on TSLL after a long time. I think I have it at $11. Took a long time to get back there, but yeah, we can see Microsoft trying to push back up into that resistance. Could we get up there? Would be nice. Get up into here. Could we get? You can see Nvidia looking like it wants to wedge out, break out potentially. Should it break this? I would anticipate high of day. Maybe we can get a failed breakout up into that upper band of VWAP and rotate. Or we could just hold here, which would be nice, and let Microsoft do the heavy lifting. But Nvidia is one of those movers. If it gets going,
China
it's
Commerce Ministry
got some money behind it.
Said China firmly opposes U.S. abuse of reciprocal tariffs.
I don't know how China could be so upset about abusing reciprocal. It's a reciprocal tariff. You're doing it to us too. Come on, man. Get us up over that overnight high one time. But like I mentioned, I need some help. I don't think it may not be a failed breakout today. Fridays do like to tend to get into a trend and start to go. As you can see right now, we are range bound. Boom, boom, boom. A sell here, rotate back down, right? This is opening range high basically, but this is the overnight high from 2 nights ago. Weekly high prior. Week high is 277 quarters. And we have our overnight high right there. Could I front run these levels? Absolutely. Could I start to use these levels as the levels? 100%. Will I? No, not today. That's a part of don't do dumb shit, right? I'm watching the behavior of the market, watching what's going on, but also talking through my thesis is here. We had the opening range low and high. We came into that 277, came right to there, sold it, supported at the pre-market, trapped shorts below that opening print, and now you're starting to get higher low, potentially another higher low coming in or a higher high coming in. So if you start to get that does tell you that potentially that long trend wants to step up. So the short here for me doesn't make a lot of sense because this is a trapping type behavior of that opening range print, the opening print of the day, right? Market open right there at 226. The failure to break down, the holding of VWAP, that still shows me strength in the market at the moment. Doesn't mean that it can't come down and sell off hard from here. But right now, I'm not interested in doing that quite yet. This potentially could be allowing the S&Ps to catch up, get some squeeze type behavior through that high, get up through 20,300, allow S&Ps to get to or close to the overnight high where there would be interest of sellers.
Swiss Economic Ministry guy Parliament, the trade discussions with Chinese addressed a bilateral and objective.
Nvidia is really finding support at 117.50. Microsoft once again trying to maybe create a higher low, trying to push back up towards that 439. If it does, then hopefully we can get this push. This is a good way to stay out of chop for me also, right? When I mentioned it earlier in the stream, I mentioned it earlier in the week. I always mention it on my streams. I always try to talk about how to stay out of choppiness, how to time things better. When I'm not on stream, there's times I'm not talking things out. I'm not getting to the point where I'm seeing the market the way I'm seeing it currently, right? So, it's hard to time things correctly if you're not able to kind of validate the thesis behind why markets are doing what they're doing right this second, right? This is just movements. It's up and down, but what it's telling you is price wants to sort of be here. There's interest and it's congested, right? There's buyers and sellers. There's a war going on currently right here, right? This is where, okay, we're going to stay here for a while. And then when we go in a direction, there's a chance it's going to start to hunt for that next area where it wants to do the same thing, right? So the point of control from yesterday is just up overhead. We're battling just below that, right? So this consolidation zone here held, failed. And you can see it failed straight down into an area where there was a lot more congestion, right? There's more interest in these orders. There's probably not a ton of orders going off here in the way that moved down, right? So you want to find consolidation, and this is a pretty decent consolidation. Now we're starting to drift higher. If we get back into this zone, the likelihood of that same type of behavior up above, but you might get a snap to the high of it, and then a congestion, and then another snap, right? It's that's how the markets work. They're looking for areas to continuously execute trades, right? It's an area. The markets are a place to facilitate trade, right? That's all this is. So at the end of the day, this is normal, but it's going to chop. It's going to range. It's going to look for liquidity, and it's going to try and, there's high frequency trading going on in these areas where they're front running orders. They're doing things. Algos are playing around. Buyers and sellers are battling, but they're making money on single ticks, right? 1 tick, 2 tick, 3 ticks. They're getting in and out of enough size where, every little tick matters to them. So you're going to get this kind of behavior. There's a book that I've read. If you want to hate the markets, it's called Flash Boys. It's this one right here. Flash Boys will tell you the story of high frequency trading, regulation M, I think. I forget which regulation came about from this, but this book will tell you a lot, and then also tell you that nothing is going to change, right? The regulation of the stock market. So we're in futures. They're regulated, but they're not as manipulated. They are, but they're not as manipulated. There's a central exchange, and that's it. When it comes to stocks and other instruments, there's multiple exchanges, multiple paths to get orders executed and routed. And the HFT world takes very good advantage of it. Read that book, Flash Boys by Michael Lewis. It's a titillating story. Very good book. I have to reread the ending. I read it a while ago, and I got to get back to it. But it is, it's interesting. It will tell you all about, like I said, how people are willing to go to crazy extremes, who have a lot more money than you, to get first in line in the order book in order to route orders and make money on just little tiny movements, front running orders and whatnot, which is a lot illegal, right? Uneventful, hands-off type morning. I'm trying to be as overly disciplined as I possibly can, because I'm not trying to give money back for stuff that's not high probability. Whatever your strategy is, whatever you trade, whatever your bread and butter is, figure out what that bread and butter is. Figure out what's working in what market conditions and leverage it, but also be patient and let it come to you. Let it tell you, hey, I'm here. Let's try this. Because realistically, there's not a lot of strategies that take advantage of this except for the HFTs, right? The high frequency trading, the algo bots. That's who's going to make money here. and you're going to get whipsawed around and washed up. I mean, you could, if you have some sort of strategy where you're fading the previous week highs, right? Okay, now we got a lower high at the previous week high. If that's your entry criteria, then it's good. Fine. You can make money in this and you can try and play this longer term, maybe like a 30-minute chart, right? If you're playing longer term horizon trading, that's not a terrible idea, right? There's a thesis behind it. But have a reasoning, have a thesis, let it tell you, let it show you your hand. But if you're some sort of short-term trader trying to execute on something arbitrary in the middle of nowhere, for me personally, it's the middle of nowhere. So I'm not going to deviate from my strategy to get chopped up in a zone just to put a trade on, because that's when you get yourself in trouble.
By US and Swiss investment, a number of about 150 billion Swiss francs is correct.
Sorry, I'm hungry. I'm eating this. S&P's trying to give up that opening range low. We never made it through there yet in the NQ, but like I said, S&P's has been leading us to the downside today. If there's a chance we get to the overnight low, or even that China tariff low, that's a really interesting level there, right? You can see how this level here makes a lot of sense. How supportive it was right into the close around 15, like right around 1500. Supported here. The bottom tick of that China tariff news tweet candle. So that would be an interesting area to keep your eyes on as well. Should you're trading short, if you're trading that 277 short idea. Like I said, it's not a terrible idea. I think that was a great trade. Especially you got the Microsoft leading. Downside again. Nvidia holding below this wedge. You know, the 277 level wasn't a terrible idea. Still holding VWAP. Never made it to VWAP yet today in the NQs, but you've touched it once, now approaching it a second time in the S&Ps.
Swiss President Kawasata says strength of Swiss franc is a recurring topic of discussion with the US. Switzerland keeps explaining the mandate of SNB is price stability.
Yeah, no news, nothing coming over the wire that's important for today at the moment. You may start to just get this fade down with the China stuff, because that's the only thing you got right now is China talking about stuff. China firmly opposes U.S. abuse of reciprocal tariffs. That was the China Commerce Ministry statement, 10 minutes ago. So I think they're just trash talking each other into the weekend.
Swiss President Kawasata says there is an interest from the US side to find a solution with the most important trading partners. And Kawasata saying Switzerland does not subsidize industry, but other countries may. And these are the points the US is interested in.
So this is where my my strategy works out really nicely when I get to the level, right? The overnight high level was important, right? For me, I want to see that break to make an adjustment potentially, with the previous week high. This second attempt at it, just kind of talking through hindsight of it, I mentioned it never quite made it. It was a lower high, right? After a little bit of an up move. What was keeping me out of it was that trap of the short, right? So I talked through that, but seeing that it was a lower high, seeing that you got some a little bit of a wick here, that slightly higher volume, not really on that candle, but the candle before, so slightly higher volume on that bid, and then a failure of that volume. It didn't continue, right? You got a dip of the volume right afterwards. Failing that, then failing this upper previous day, 2 days ago, overnight high, sort of still plays into the mean reversion where, look at that, perfectly. You never really take any heat on it. You dip down 20, 30, 40 points, and now you're up nicely. Still able to, maybe if you're multiple contracts, taking most of your position off at VWAP and then letting the rest run for the rest of the session, or whatever your trailing ideas are. So that's how this strategy works. However, for me, it needed to get up 10 more points. Once again, yesterday I didn't execute on the big move of the day. I caught my little piece. I caught my price. I locked out because of the Trump press conference. The ability for those algos to snap you in and snap you out. I took my money and ran. Today, I kept myself out of noise, which I'm happy with because I didn't execute anything yet. The levels here, it's not quite breached. My strategy isn't there. Some days you're just not going to get filled. You're not going to get the entry criterion. I am interested to see where this ends up on the low end. Should we get there by 10 o'clock? I did mention you're going to run into some key support here at 143. If you get some sort of basing pattern here, you could look to see a continuation down to overnight lows and play that momentum breakdown. If you're shorting VWAP, just a momentum play, look for something to set you up. You are getting NVIDIA to run right into support, so there is a chance that you get a bounce from here. Not exactly here, but in this area. So be cautious, right? This is where I have NVIDIA support at 116.63. And then Microsoft also pre-market support, right? Pre-market support, bounce. This could be a dead cat bounce here and start to rotate through. So you watch this lower end, 437.77-ish. But if NVIDIA starts to catch a bounce here, maybe you flush this and start to push up, then you'll start to see the recovery of VWAP here and a push higher. No executions for me yet. Like I said, Friday, I would love to end the week on a nice quality execution. I don't have to execute. Nobody ever has to execute. Nobody's telling you have to. I'm up okay for the week. I'm looking to just continue to leverage great A+ executions. When I was in my futures desk, if you follow me on X at all, or if you're in the futures desk Discord at all, I do post I have posted the P&L simulator and how much more I could have made over the course of the evals. Let's go over to it, right? Reports, all time. If you go to the P&L simulator, right, this was my equity curve on the eval stage and then up until today. If I just deselect the no setups, my profit doubled, more than doubled, because this was when I was just executing nonsense. I wasn't really sticking to my plan. It was a hard time mentally. There was a lot of things going on, and I just didn't quite, execute correctly. But even so, if I would have just gotten rid of everything but my mean reversion strategy, it's even more of a play, right? So if I just do my A+ setups when I know they're there, when they're coming, you could see how much better you can do, up potentially 6K instead of 3K on those accounts. I'm just trading 2 micros, right? It's nothing crazy. It's not a wild thing that you're looking to do. It's just eliminating the noise. If you can eliminate the noise and stick to your strategy, you're going to do really, really well. So that's my psychology for the day.
main solutions with individual nations. Earlier on, you did have China's Commerce Minister Wang.
See, I was talking about the. Oh, I think I might have messed that up. Let me see what's going on. Oh, that's the problem with the Twitch. Okay, you're breaking that support. Microsoft broke that level there, and now we do have down the 437 as that next area of interest for Microsoft, right? See if it'll come into here and support. If not, like I said, Fridays tend to trend. So people get involved, and then people on the other end do not want to get caught off sides, right? So here's that support. The next level of support is 115.97. I mentioned that consolidation zone was 116 to 117, and here's that area that I was talking about, that 143.25. That was key structure for the NQ. This very similar area, we have breached it in the S&Ps. That low there still hasn't been breached, but that support structure did. So just be mindful of that. That level is more right here than not. So we're in that zone for the S&Ps. If this just melts through there, this is a true heaviness. There it is. True heaviness coming in. We might get the overnight low idea to come into play, right? So that's why I have these levels. If we're away from the highs, wait for the overnight lows. If we're away from the overnight lows, wait for the previous day highs or the previous day lows. All right, this is a nice heaviness. Clean move straight to the downside. Microsoft right into 437. Nvidia right to 116.23. Hasn't quite breached that level yet. Excuse me. Oh, man. Choking on my things here. Peanut butter. Baking soda. All right. So what I would be looking for, should we get our setup on the low end from the overnight low, I would be looking at that 143 level as an area where it would want to bounce back to and continue this short, right? So I'm not necessarily fully convinced that the downtrend is done, but should I get my setup down here at the overnight low, it's a good way to get people off sides. This is a very heavy move. If people say, oh, if it breaks the overnight low, I'm shorting more, and then it starts to recover, then people start to panic out. I'll get my squeeze up into the area of interest of 143. That's where I'll start to look to say, okay, maybe I need to trail to here. If we squeeze through it, if we burn through here, then maybe we can return all, back the other direction. So that's where I'm looking right now. We might not make it to the overnight lows because of the support levels. Again, Nvidia right to 115.97, 116, and Microsoft to 437. There's no news on this, so this is like I said, purely structured, breakdown, price discovery type move. So price discovery is what I was talking about. You're gonna get a lot of congestion, then you're gonna get a break move in a direction, and then you're going to start to look for another area of congestion where price wants to be more than not. And so the point of control probably started down here yesterday, probably right at that overnight low. It probably flipped to the high, and that's when it broke down. 2 days ago, I mentioned that point of control is down here at 45. So, your next area for discovery is down below the overnight low, even that previous day low, because of that consolidation there. But we'll see what happens if we get there or not. If it wants to return back just because of Microsoft and Nvidia, right? These are all intertwined. Everything's kind of connected together. Right? Nvidia's got that wick low on the bottom. Microsoft finding that support at 437. And we're here. Break, retest, rotate. See if I can get something that happened that looks like this. If we can get this to do this and then fail, come into here, try and do something like that, then I can start to look to get to here for first target. And then I would assume, you're going to get VWAP to be somewhere around here. target that, and then potentially that next level there. So that's really what I would like to see out of this if I'm going to get this long. Once again, these I drew an interest level. These green dotted levels are just areas that I'll draw up during the session that I'll just delete later on. That during this session, it should be possibly reactive. And, could I execute the ideas around these? Right, I could, but they're not. Like I said, it's Friday. For me, I'm not looking to trade this. It's more of I'm interested. I see it. This is something I should be noting, but it's not part of my strategy. If I was just purely discretionary, purely like a robot, and I had a huge capital bank, and I wanted to take like a small shot at it, this could be considered like a B setup where I want to get retest and play the continuation here for the target of the low, and then once I see that low come into play, trail out, look to flip and try and go long on my mean reversion A setup, right? So that's more of like what a high capital trader may look to do, but at the end of the day, also if they're high capital and they have an A plus setup, they might just leverage more into this, right? So just because you see things happening and you could possibly anticipate the idea playing out, there's more to trading than just taking everything that looks good. Don't just take everything that looks good. But if I start to see this play out, right? Okay, this is good. Now my idea is valid still. I have reasoning behind it. There's thesis. There's potential that this whole thing makes sense because of my thought behind the whole move and the psychology of the move, right? All this is a big psychology experiment. How do I get people to be interested down here so I can buy it here, right? Well, if I'm a big player, I do this. I get people involved in shorts. I get people to set orders down here for continuation. I see the orders. I hunt them because I can see everything resting on the book, especially with institutional information. And then I can start to pick them off one by one and then see, okay, retest it, see if I can get some more people to try and play a momentum short, trap those momentum shorts, and then now rotate them back up. And that's where my strategy comes into play. Sort of a reverse psychology. I'm going to leave these drawings up for now until I see this not correct. But as we approach my level, I'm going to take them off so you can see this. I'll do this. Here's the idea. And now I'll delete it. Fridays, normally I probably won't even be streaming. I wanted to just finish off this week strong. This is getting back into the stream groove, make it part of my daily routine. I want to see more and more people join in, but if not, no big deal. I'm really here for personal accountability, everything about that, all that fun stuff. All right, so that leg of my idea played, right? So there's your continuation play, momentum break to the downside. Now, S&P's is right at the overnight low. So we're pretty much at the same location with the S&P's as we are with NQ, which is nice now, right? At the high end, we weren't, and S&P's was nowhere near the overnight high. NQ got close but never breached it. Should we now get the overnight low here to flush on both If you start to see NQ or ES start to lead the way to the upside, try and use the other one to help you say, okay, are we still safe? Are we still good? Or is this heaviness going to continue, right? Does previous day low come into play? Friday's like the trend, like I said, but also at the same time, I drew this out how I think we could get that fail, break, fail, rotate higher, right? I don't think we're going to get a wick in, wick out, go. I don't want to take that first leg up, but I may have to just because of what's playing out here. Let's see. We tickled it on both. I want to see failed breakout, failed momentum, and then go. But NVIDIA just absolutely flushed. And Microsoft is poised to do the same. Showing relative strength in Microsoft. Relative, right? Relative strength. It's not strong. It's just holding the low better than the NVIDIA did. I need to see a hard flush, higher volume maybe. See, this candle had higher volume, but we got diminished volume here at the low. If I get some increased spike volume here at the bottom, then potentially we can pop. Come on, give me a hard flush. Momentum breakdown traders are going to look to short and continue out of the overnight range, right? Like I said, I think the point of control is more down at 2054. So I would like to see it down into that 50s before coming back to try and fail it. Lower volume there, not high volume. Not convinced of a breakdown. There you go. I need to let this candle do its thing first. Because the heaviness could come in really fast here. I don't want to get like wicked in and wicked out, right? But I do want to play and get involved should my strategy play out. All right, so like I said, I wanted to see it get down closer to that 50 level. Right, this congestion here from yesterday. 62s. Okay. I like that. Stop by 2 over that, 84s. Thank you. Let's see what happens. This is how I do it, right? I set my order and see what happens. Microsoft's heavier below the level. NVIDIA's still showing relative weakness. However, like I said, we can push in. If we can recover back up over 115, 116, you're good. Microsoft pushed down below and now is trying to get back up over 437. If it does, I'm going to take the long. If I'm stopped, I'm stopped. It is what it is. It's just part of what I drew up for you, right? Break, retest, run. Can we get that to happen? Because S&P's is holding it, right? I want S&P's to hold and continue upside because it was relatively weak. Now it's showing a bit stronger.
According to Tasnim news report citing a member of Iran team, Iran has agreed to hold a fourth round of indirect nuclear discussions with the US on Sunday.
NVIDIA is still heavy, but if Microsoft can break above 437, we could get a squeeze going. Up to that 143.25, which is nice area there. Break, retest, see if we can get a squeeze now above here. If you break this low, it would be trappy. Also, Microsoft looking to push downside. There's a downside push in Microsoft. Snap the low. NVIDIA's lower. If we could potentially see this fail, then we're good. But if this is going to be a good momentum play, then it's going to be good, right, for the momentum long people. So I'm going to get triggered in. I'm in. Let's see what happens.
Now US stock indexes.
I wanted to go quick, right? I don't want to linger in this too long.
Nasdaq down about 0.7. Excuse me, 0.4%.
Right? Quick in and outs. I might get stopped earlier on my S&P on my top step because it's a full mini, but I'm in long. We'll see if it plays. And I'm out. Nope, still in. Still in. Still in. Still safe. Right there. Oh, Microsoft, play with me. If we break through that wick on the high there, I'm going to get tighter on my stop. NVIDIA's starting to push up higher. Come on now. That's going to go down. All right, so we're out on that one. I'm going to take the loss there. I'm going to cut that real quick. I don't want to be in that much longer. Should we get the retest break back above, I'll re-enter. Right? Stop by 2 there. I don't mind cutting that quick and then trying again. I'd rather see it go now and then not go. Oh, yep, out on that. Top steps out. So I tried the shot here. See if S&Ps can hold the overnight low or not.
It's possible that the US
VWAP is my target up there, but it's up that 143 level. If we can get there, it would be nice. I'm going to cut this again here. Let's see if we can get this strength. Top step, you dirty dog. Whip me out before we got in. Get up over that level, and we can start to see some squeezy, peasy, lemon peasy. There we go. So there's the A+ setup playing out. I'm glad I cut that first short a little bit, but I'm going to go ahead and hold that there. Should have been a winner on the top step, but it's not, so it's okay. Let's see what we can get going up. You know, like 1-to-1 there, I went to even. Need to see a squeeze, though, right? 59. I'm going to take that there. That 100, that 20,100 level is an area where people would be interested, right? I don't want 16 bucks. I want to take off my my fees, basically. See that flush there? That is for continuation. That's a nice short opportunity there. But I'm going to watch this when it gets to the overnight low. Give me 1 second. Sweatshirt off. I shot my shot at it. We'll see if we can hold up over it. If we get that same breakdown flush, then potentially we can try one more time. I'm not really opposed to it, right? Getting stop at even. If we see that strength there, we're good. I'm switching my top step to a micros, and I'm going to take a shot at it long.
Order filled.
Nah, we're out on that. On the. So that was a good trade, honestly. I'm going to stay mean reversion long, overnight low. Overnight low. I didn't let it play as much just based on the heaviness on a Friday, but I'm okay with that. Letting the top step one play out with a micro on that retest. Because I had my daily loss set to 500 and I only had 50 bucks of drawdown there. But I did, oh, that's an area of interest at 100, so. Microsoft held that level, which was helpful in taking that long. NVIDIA is still kind of heavy, but we did start to bid up some. So that's really what got me involved. Well, also the level holding. Unfortunately, took a quick L on it, which kind of realistically could have held even longer, but it's okay. 143, right? I talked about that being the area where I'm interested a little bit to get that retest and then see if VWAP comes back here. Nvidia is starting to curl again. Microsoft dilly-dallying, not squeezing. Oop. Alrighty. Still holding, which is nice. Strength there. And there it goes a bit. Downside. Microsoft could retest 437 and then pop, which would be nice and helpful for us. Maybe we could get one more re-entry here. I could have taken one contract off before that snap down as far as being at 1-to-1 on the risk. But with these smaller contract sizes, I'm trying to trail a bit better. Microsoft getting a bit heavy again. We could sweep that again and then potentially get a long from there. And then actually get the move like kind of how we did yesterday. Overall, it's a green week, so I'm not too concerned about it no matter what because my max loss limits are in place. Waiting for it to play. Down, small loser there, 50 bucks. Like I said, I'm not trying to force it in on this account. Trying to be extra picky. Microsoft holding 437. Nvidia holding that 115.50 for now. I'm going to add on to my long in the Top Step account if it gets through this 122 and see if I could take off. Maybe I'll get to even. There's the squeeze. So the play worked. Nice. 143, like I said, that's the area where we need to see if it's going to start to reject or not. 143, I don't see a huge orders on the books there, so let's see what happens with it. I got out of this slightly early, just panicked out. Not panicked out, but once I start to go up 1-to-1, going to even's fine. To get stopped out at even on that is fine. The first one I cut early because the heaviness was there and I didn't like it. Nvidia's got to get through that higher resistance at 116, 115.97, and Microsoft's got to bounce here at 437. Got to get back above 437. Do we get back to that 143 like I mentioned? You know, the drawing that I drew was pretty much played out exactly, except for the part where it breaks through and gets to VWAP. So let's see if we can get through that 143. Seconds left on this candle here. See if it squeezes through the high here. There you go. So I'm helping. I'm managing a position on Top Step. So full transparency here. That 143 level I was talking about is here. Top end of that. I was down 450. Switched over to micros because, you know, I took a couple paper cuts on the full mini and I don't want to do dumb shit, right? Why not be able to take this opportunity? If we could squeeze through 143, that'd be absolutely money. I'm going to switch this down to 1. Nope. Yeah, let's see. Stop sell 1. If we get through 143, I'm going to trail 1 contract up there because if I want to get taken out, we get taken out. I think we just ticked it. No, 140. It's going to sell from there. Nope, Microsoft's about to squeeze. Come on, Microsoft. NVIDIA's through up to that first lower band of VWAP. Can we get back up to highs? Below that candle there. Damn, that was whippy. Microsoft selling through 437, so that is what's holding us back currently, it looks like. This probably has a nice hard flush to it.
Multiple blasts heard in Jammu City in Indian Kashmir.
Okay. India's still having fun. Wars over there, blows, explosions over there. They're talking about in Kashmir. I don't think that's going to affect the markets, though, much. Until we start saying that we're getting involved. Yeah. So I gave myself, you know, a couple bucks back. $400 down. We're good there. Tower announcement high is 0.44. Never quite made it to that. So we could see that come into play. Right here. A little bit lower. Then possibly get the good bounce. But that 143 resistance made sense. Never quite made it there, but they did front run it. Probably could have took one off up there. But it's fine. I was going to trail it up if we broke through it, but we never broke through it. Can we make a retest of 44? That's where I would like to get to, so we can see if we can maybe possibly squeeze that up. See if we get a higher low in Microsoft or NVIDIA also. So down small, 52 bucks here, 400 on the Top Step account there. Took a decent win there. You know, got ourselves 50 bucks back just to buffer back out for the day. If I enter over there, I'll let you know. 5 minutes till 10. The wife's got to get out of here, so I'm going to probably be done for the day anyway. Yeah. So 5 more minutes. We are done. Why does it not have internet access? I don't understand. This phone, the new updates are terrible. It tells me I don't have internet when I do have internet. So the idea played, I cut a little sooner than I wanted to, just based on the heaviness, based on some of the other factors. This stopped me out at even here on this wick down and then continued on. it is what it is what it is there. I had to go to even at 1-to-1 on my risk. It's just part of my rules. And if this is going to continue on and continue to squeeze, then it should have went a little bit faster than that pullback. This now would be nice if we can get a lower low or somewhere into this range. 44 I talked about is that tariff announcement high. So if we hold that could be important as well. But we did wick that weekly VWAP on the S&Ps, so that was another reason for that long to kind of play out. So we could still continue upside. Microsoft trying to hold. Nvidia now starting to catch it. So maybe we get squeezed through 43. We could get a long for momentum play there. Remember I mentioned that level is pretty important. Could squeeze through it. I may take it on the XFA. But right now, 3 minutes till 10. Stream's going to get cut shortly here. Just remind yourself, don't do dumb shit. Try to get something in and get done quick. Not that I forced it in. It was the right play. Maybe I just didn't give it enough room to let it work. But overall, like I said, did our best on it. Got the opportunity. It was here. Just got to trust it a little bit more. Fridays I don't trust, so I get a little bit tight. Yeah. If we could trust the squeeze, though, that'd be nice. Which I may do. There we go. I'll take it on the top step on 2 micros for you. If it goes through 43, we'll risk $100 on it. See if we can come back up to VWAP. See if Microsoft and Nvidia play out for us. The last trade of the week for the stream. See if we can make some money on it. I'm not a great momentum breakout trader, so we're going to see what we can do here on it. If it doesn't break and hold this level here, I might cut quick. Gotta make sure that VWAP is correct. It's not so for me. My thought of a momentum breakout would be harder than that, faster than that. Microsoft was going, Nvidia was going. Still seems like they're in areas where buys would be interested. Get through that high there, you add 2. Sell 2 here. Nice little squeeze idea. So see, this is me trying to play a momentum breakout. I'm not very good at them. This is not my A+ setup, but I was trying something that I thought maybe could play out. It still can, but this type of behavior I do not like personally. And if it's going to get back down through here, I'm going to want to be out. But if it gets through the high, I want to add. So it's very interesting behavior.
Order filled.
And I'm out. See that? That's how that works. All right, so we tried that one on the momentum break, talking about not doing dumb shit. Not that it was dumb shit, but we tried some sort of idea there. I'm not a fan of that type of play, so we're not going to do that anymore today. We're done for the day. Stream's done. Got to get the wife to her appointment. It's been fun. Back to work. See what we do with our stream next week. I will talk to you all later. Down small, nothing big. Great week so far. And we're going to the weekend. Happy campers. So I'll talk